Have you ever stopped to think about how many soldiers marched through the ranks of the Roman Empire over the centuries? We're talking about millions, literally. Each one of them wore a helmet, which means there was a true sea of metal marching down roads, through forests and storming fortresses. And those helmets weren't all the same. They had specific models for different eras and functions. The legionaries' Gallia with its horsehair crests, the reinforced versions worn by centurions, and even lightweight models used by scouts and explorers. Now think about this. If Rome existed for over 1,000 years and was present on 3 continents, how many helmets were manufactured, tested, and used in battle? An absurd number. And yet today, we only have a handful of examples in museums. Strange, right? Because metal doesn't just vanish into thin air. So the inevitable question arises, where are all the Roman helmets that vanished from the map? That's when the story gets even more interesting. Wait, before we continue, I need your help. YouTube only shares this video with more people if there's a lot of interaction. That means without your comment, this knowledge might stay buried and never reach those who need it. If this content makes sense to you, comment 1. If you disagree, comment 0 and tell me why. I want to see at least 100 comments here so YouTube understands this topic needs to spread. So leave your comment now and be part of this mission to uncover the secrets of ancient Rome. Now let's get back to it. If millions of helmets were made, why have almost none survived? It just doesn't make sense. Metal doesn't rot like wood or fall apart like fabric. Many of those helmets were made of bronze, iron, sometimes even decorated with silver or gold. In other words, they were tough and valuable. So why did they disappear? Did they all just get lost over time? Or is there something more behind their vanishing? The mystery keeps growing, and the answer may lie in a very dark period of history. The next step is understanding what happened to that war treasure when Rome fell. When the Roman Empire collapsed, it wasn't just a political shift. It was the complete breakdown of a system that had ruled much of the known world. And with it, the structure that protected and valued these objects also fell. Without organized armies and with cities in ruins, many helmets simply became scrap metal. That's right. During the Middle Ages, metal was a precious resource. Blacksmiths, nobles, even peasants did whatever they could to reuse everything. A forgotten Roman helmet lying on a battlefield or in an abandoned depot was perfect to be melted down and turned into a sword, a tool, or a gate hinge. The symbolic value was gone. Only the material mattered. Imagine how many historical artifacts were thrown into the fire, with no one realizing what was being destroyed. It was a mass erasure of traces. It's tragic, but it helps explain why so much has vanished. But not all helmets shared this fate. Some were buried with their owners, and that's when the story takes another turn. Not all helmets were repurposed or destroyed. Many ended up underground, but not by accident. When a legionary died far from home, especially if he was someone important or well-liked by his comrades, it was common for him to be buried with the items that defined him: his sword, his shield, and of course, his helmet. It wasn't just a piece of war gear. It was a symbol of his identity as a Roman soldier. Burying that helmet with him was a way of ensuring he wouldn't be forgotten. The problem is, many of these burials happened in remote areas, lost battlefields, forests that grew back, or even secret locations far from the reach of archaeologists. Those helmets are still there, sleeping under the earth, waiting to be found. Some have already been unearthed, but they are extremely rare, and each one tells a different story. But for that to happen, we need to dig carefully because what's buried isn't just old iron. It's memory, and that memory still holds many secrets. For many people today, a helmet is just a piece of protective equipment. But for a Roman soldier, it was so much more than that. It was part of his soul. When a legionary put on his helmet, he transformed. It was like putting on honor, courage, and duty to Rome. The helmet carried legion symbols, battle marks, decorations showing rank, and even small personal touches added with pride. Some soldiers engraved their names. Others drew protective symbols or attached animal feathers. It was something deeply intimate. That's why losing a helmet was like losing your own identity. It was almost like being erased from history. And many soldiers knew that. Some chose to bury their helmets in secret, as if protecting a part of themselves. Others hid them from looters, afraid they'd fall into the wrong hands. That emotional connection is what makes each helmet a unique relic. And that's why finding one, even damaged, is like hearing a whisper straight from the past. Here's something few people know. Many Roman helmets were one of a kind. Even though they were mass-produced with military molds and standards, each soldier found a way to make his unique. Some carved initials, others etched religious symbols, and the boldest even added stones or colorful feathers. It was their way of making a statement. It wasn't just a uniform piece. It was like a portrait of the warrior soul. Anyone who looked at it could tell where he came from, which legion he served in, and sometimes even what he had achieved. By the way, hit the like button if this kind of content resonates with you. It's just one click, but it helps the channel keep revealing these hidden parts of history. And the YouTube algorithm only spreads this video if it sees that you're engaged. So come on, show your support. Back to the story. Finding a helmet with personalized markings is like reading a diary without words. Every scratch, every detail, tells a story no one else lived. And the rarer the helmet, the more precious that fragment of history becomes. Even though they're rare, some Roman helmets have survived the centuries and were discovered by archaeologists. And each find was a real shock. One almost intact helmet was found buried in mud-covered ruins at an ancient fort in northern England. Another showed up in Germany on a forgotten battlefield, with golden details still visible. These pieces, even rusted, shine through the history they carry. When a helmet like that is found, scholars go wild because they reveal so much more than looks. They show combat techniques, war rituals, and even clues about the personality of the man who wore it. What's most astonishing is that some still had bloodstains or signs of battle damage, as if they had been left behind in the heat of the fight, then swallowed by the earth. These finds aren't just ancient objects, they're time capsules, physical memories of real men who lived, fought, and died for Rome, and many more are still out there waiting to be discovered. Over time, people fell in love with the aesthetics of Roman helmets. That sparked a booming replica market. You can find plastic helmets for costumes, bronze versions for collectors, even hyper-detailed ones made by artisans. But then comes the problem. When old helmets appear, how can you tell if they're truly from Roman times or just very well-made modern fakes? Sometimes the difference lies in microscopic details. The type of metal alloy, the way the solder was applied, marks from ancient tools, and only experts can spot those. The worst part? There have been cases where museums displayed fake helmets believing they were authentic. It shows how tricky the world of relics can be. Meanwhile, real ones remain incredibly rare. Many are in private collections hidden from public view. Others have been lost forever. And every time a replica circulates as if it were real, part of history gets muddled. That's why when a legitimate helmet surfaces, it becomes a treasure. Because it's the truth, finally coming out from underground. There's a dark side to this story that few people talk about: the illegal trafficking of ancient artifacts. Yes, unfortunately, many Roman helmets, authentic, historical, and priceless, ended up in the wrong hands. And we're not talking about casual collectors, but organized networks that loot archaeological sites before scholars even get there. They dig in a rush, sell on the black market, and vanish with pieces that belong in museums. These helmets disappear into private collections, locked in vaults, far from any scientific analysis. Some are sold for huge sums to millionaires who want a piece of history on display. Others are altered, improperly cleaned, or even taken apart to sell the pieces separately. It's a massive loss, because each of those helmets carried precious information about the empire, the legions, the materials used, the battles fought. And now those stories have become merchandise. The past is being auctioned off in silence, and almost no one notices. The big question remains: How many helmets are still hidden out there? In the fields of ancient Gaul, in the mountains of Hispania, or buried beneath modern buildings in Italy? The truth is, Rome's story still lives underground. With each excavation, fragments emerge from an empire that once seemed invincible. And you can't help but wonder, is there a helmet buried somewhere right now that holds a story capable of changing everything we know about Rome? If this video made you think, leave a like. It's a simple way to support this kind of content and show YouTube that you want more stories like this. And before you go, do this. Click on the video that just popped up on your screen. It reveals something even more intriguing, something most people have never heard of. But that's part of an ancient secret Rome tried to hide for centuries. Go watch it now and keep uncovering the mystery with me. See you there.